which team has been the bigger disappointment this year?
I really had a hard time with this. Listen, I am very upset with the Eagles. This is just unreal, but they've had some injuries. They've had some other issues. I don't know what's going on with them. But then you look at Dallas, who's been somewhat healthy for the most part.
Yeah, they really have been one of the healthiest
And when
teams.
you look at the way Dak is performing, you wouldn't expect this to look at this team and see them be 6-6. So I'm actually going to say they are the bigger disappointment here. Because when you compare to the two teams at the beginning of the year, you put them a game or two between each other, Philly might be 11-5, Dallas right there at 10-6. Well, the Eagles lost 3 of their wide receivers for a while. They didn't have their corners. They've just been unhealthy. Dallas, on the other hand, completely healthy. A couple issues here and there, not too much, but they're just not performing. They're just not living up to expectations. They haven't beat a team with an over 500 winning record yet. I don't understand what's going on with them. Zeke has been somewhat underperforming. And again, I hate to repeat it, but when you look at what Dak has done this year with Amari Cooper,
you look
with
at
Michael
those
Gallup,
offensive numbers. I think they're still the number one offense in the league.
That offensive
statistically
line.
speaking.
Yeah, and that defense had a lot of hype going into this year.
They paid a bunch of players on that defense. Yeah.
So to me, they are more disappointing. Now, don't get me wrong. Personally, it's the Eagles.
Oh yeah,
but from a high level, looking at it, it's definitely the Dallas Cowboys.
I totally get it. And originally when I thought about it, I leaned towards Philly just because I did have slightly higher expectations for them. Excuse me. They had a higher ceiling in my mind when fully healthy. But you have to take into considerations the injuries that have been occurring for this team since the preseason with Malik Jackson going down. You lost Timmy Jernigan for a little while. Offensive line has been banged up. Like you said, you're losing all your pass catchers. Jordan Howard is now injured. It's been one thing after another. Their DBs for the first half of the season, they were on 3rd and 4th string defensive backs.
And 5th.
It's just been a total cluster there in Philly. So yes, it's disappointing, but not necessarily because they have been underachieving based on their personnel. That has been the case with the Cowboys. Like you said, they have all this talent. The stats show that they should be elite, but for whatever reason, they can't win games against quality opponents. And this Thursday or on Thanksgiving against Buffalo, it was like the polar opposite of what we've been talking about the past 4 weeks. They come out, first drive straight down the field, touchdown. It's like, oh my gosh, they're about to drop 40 on the Bills, make them look silly. And then they just, I don't know what happened. They stopped running the ball, I guess, because Zeke was actually averaging, I think, a little over 4 yards a carry so far in the game. They moved away from that. I don't know. They just don't seem to have an identity. So when things go a little off script, they don't have something to fall back on that they know is going to keep them in games. They've been the bigger disappointment because with the players that they field every single week, they should be doing better. They're a top 5 team talent-wise in the NFL, and they're in the worst division in football. I don't understand. If they find a way to not make the playoffs, it will be the biggest disappointment in football, more so than the Cleveland Browns, more so than the Los Angeles Chargers. They've got no excuse to be 6-6.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. And there's a very good chance they aren't going to make the playoffs. I mean, it really all comes down to in a couple of weeks when these two teams play each other.
It really does. So that kind of leads into the next question we have. Which of these two teams do you think is going to make the playoffs? Because one of them has to.
Right.
They both might be 8-8, but
someone
someone has. And you know what's crazy? One of these teams is going to get a home game.
Yeah, that's
one of
how
these
it
teams
works.
is going to host a playoff game.
That's how it works.
Anyway.
I get it. But, you look at it, it's like, well, how do you expect the Eagles to win? They just lost to the Dolphins. But then the Cowboys lost to the Jets at the beginning of the season. So you're like, what the hell do you expect? So for now, I would be like, you know what, Eagles, they're hosting that game against Dallas. They're going to have a little home field advantage. Maybe they'll have a little pep in their step. I don't know. Hopefully they come off 2 wins here. They should beat the Giants, but they should have beat the Dolphins. Eli Manning starting this game now potentially. I really don't know. But part of me just wants to hold on to that hope for at least another week. So I'm going to go with the Eagles. I don't think it's going to.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying it, but I actually agree with you. I do, because I'm looking at the schedule. So the Eagles' next 4 games, like you said, they get the Giants, which, once again, anything can happen with either of these teams. Yeah. They've shown that they can play terribly even against bad teams. But they get the Giants, they get Washington, they get Dallas at home in week 16, and then the Giants again in week 17. I think they're going to win the 3 games not versus Dallas, so obviously it's going to come down to that game. Whereas Dallas gets the Bears, the Rams, Eagles, and Washington. I believe that they lose at least one of the games between Chicago and Los Angeles, possibly both of them.
Yeah, I really don't know. Chicago's tomorrow night, Thursday night. It's in Dallas.
I actually don't know.
It's actually probably in Chicago.
I think it's in Chicago.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, when you look at it from that perspective, that Chicago defense is good, and Dallas has struggled. I mean, I would put Chicago's defense up there with what Buffalo has been doing. I mean, they don't have that true shutdown corner like Tre'Davious White, but what has Amari Cooper done the last 2 weeks? What has he done against Gilmore and White? Not much.
Now, to be fair, those are 2 of the best lockdown corners in the league. But no, I get it. I don't have reason to have faith in either of these teams.
Oh, no way.
But you
Absolutely
look at that Eagles schedule, and like I said, 3 of those games are very, very winnable.
Yes.
I don't think they drop one of those. I think Doug Peterson gets his team ready to go. Especially against those teams who have nothing to play for.
Right.
Both teams have given up. Like you said, the Giants might start Eli. You did tell me, though, it would be wild if Eli he finishes out his career crushing the Eagles' hopes and dreams of making the playoffs. Like, imagine if Philly goes on, beats Dallas at home, and then Eli takes them down in Week 17 and they miss the playoffs.
That would be something else. But, that's another thing. It's like, what if you win these next 2 games, like, convincingly, and then Dallas comes in and just rolls you again like they did in the beginning of the season? I don't know. It's an absolute shit show.
It's almost impossible to predict because both of these teams, like we've seen, great defensive efforts, great offensive performances, rarely the 2 of them strung together in one game.
Yeah, if you told me the Eagles put 31 on the Dolphins, I'd tell you it's a surefire win after they just held New England and Seattle to 17 points
and
each.
then they rattle off 24 straight in the second half, and it was the first time that on that trick play, the first time that a kicker has scored a touchdown since 1977.
I was yelling. As soon as I saw the swing gates, I was like, timeout, timeout,
Yeah,
timeout. Why wouldn't you call a timeout?
It was a wild play to watch.